places, we agreed on this progression here and other places, got a lot going on. And sometimes it's like when you walk in the house with your kids and you just came out of traffic, right? And they didn't do anything to you. You just didn't have time to decompress. Anybody ever had that happen? You know, then you got to buy ice cream and toys and all that make up for it, all right? So, yeah, you do, right? We all know that. So, we find we take a minute to just try to get our data very important because there's going to be a shift in dynamics to it, all right? I think we've reached a significant enough point that it's time to start doing some structural stuff. And also, I think there's a clearer picture of the type before. So, first thing we're going to do, just a minute here, kind of, you know, find your space inside of you. And whatever it was that you brought in here inside of you, don't go ahead and deal with it. And then we're going to get down to business and we're going to interact with each other in a productive manner the way we demonstrated and we've done to grow together over the last few weeks. It is also our practice to introduce ourselves at the onset of each meeting, and say who we are, where we're from, and pass on the next person. Start right here.
Donald Sanders, Campbell, Radio. NCRT, Minneapolis-Tornado.
Randy D, Northside resident, and with the Coca-Cola Theaters,
Okay, Mpls-Mirror resident,
Al Flower, Minneapolis NAACP Community Action Chair.
and Post Urban Works.
Harvey Warren, Conflict Resolution Center.
Carrie D. Aspenwall, City of Minneapolis, Community Relations.
Tracy Williams, Minnesota spokesman, recorded newspaper.
Jerry McAfee, New Civil Metals Church.
Denise Harris, North Minneapolis Meals on Wheels, Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, St. Paul.
That's my Medicare African American Family Services.
Frank Forsberg with United Way.
Karen Kelly, R. Wallach, Minneapolis Foundation.
Julie Young, Burns Minneapolis School Student Support Services.
Matthew McGlory, Northway Community Trust.
Bill Reeves, organizer, activist, and journalist.
Terry Izagari, Minneapolis Mayor.
Tammy Moore, Quantum Community Church. Sue Waddle Phillips, Elam Transitional Housing, Micah, and the National Coalition of Homes.
Barbara Mylan, Phyllis Whitley Community Center.
William Higgins, former state representative, and faculty staff.
Ron Edwards, the Ron Dyke Community Group.
Deborah Davis Moody, Adventist Community Services, and Minnesota Forward.
I'm Grace from Minnesota Law and Medway.
Becky Bollinger with the East Gateway Partnership.
Andy Barnett. Bruce York, Greater Minneapolis Council of Church.
Madam?
Yes.
Introduce yourself.
Oh, Karen Johnson.
Can't hear you.
Karen Johnson, Quincy Community Land Bank.
All right, consider that.
Thanks.
I'm Louis King.
Here.
Southern Canada, and I'm kind of like to stuff you with all the deals here. First thing that I always tell people, because most folks want to do everything at once, is let's establish some perspective. And as of last Friday, well, at the onset we said this would take 36 months, which is, as you see, and I keep bringing you back to this, 156 weeks, of which 10% is 15.6 weeks, 1% is 1.56. Last Friday we hit the 2% March in terms of time. And I think that we can be an operating unit by August, which will still leave 95% time in front of us. I say this at the onset so that we can manage expectations, because many people begin by saying, why haven't we should be doing X, Y, Z. And so, unless we run into a burning house, the first thing is to get organized and also take care of the immediate concerns that we've identified and established as our priorities. And no matter how passionate this man comes into the room and argues, we stick with our priorities. So the next thing is that we acknowledge the fact that Hennepin County, Hennepin County is the leading human service organization in the county. We cannot replace the county. We are not the county. All right. So let's remember that for all the great things that social service organizations do, they do not have $1 billion capacity at all. And it's what the taxpayers pay them to. Our thing was to inform, augment, complement, support the county. And we said that our initial priority after the emergency response was to maintain continuity of care with people who were impacted by that tornado. And most specifically, the renters, very strong voice for them from the very beginning. That was driven too by the Red Crosses ramping up and then ramping back down to pre-tornado levels. And so our first thing was to come to the share. Let's make sure there's a response to that. Our team was put together. Shonda Mpls-Mirror is leading that effort, and later we're going to hear the general parameters of the proposal that we've come together to submit to the Minneapolis Foundation based on the needs that the Red Cross cut off. And I want to be real clear about that, because I understand the reports back from committee meetings that folks come to the meetings with other agendas. This group sanctioned and authorized what was to take place in the committees. No one has the authority to change that at a committee meeting, or we fall apart. Are we together on that? Yes. Read by show of hands. Anyone opposing that? Raise your hand. That is our norm. This group gives direction. Committees execute. People come in and plead, preach, pray, whatever they want to do. Shout. It doesn't change. And we're going to organize a little bit better here in a minute so that we don't have to deal with that in one place and then move efficiently. There's a survey on the street to determine our capacity, to figure out what we can and cannot do. We agreed as a group that no matter how gifted our grants writers are, we will not hold ourselves up to be the be-all, end-all. We will understand our limitations, practice in our weight class, and stay in our ranks. If not, the elephants will run you over. And we'll have no credibility. And then finally, integration with Hennepin County's efforts, because again, they are it. And we had Hennepin County in here last week, and I want to make sure I got this right. There were 5,000 cases or 5,000 people that they don't quite know where they are right now. Is that right? That's what we heard? Everybody listen. There's confusion. There's less confusion. Now, we have a reputation in this community for being a rough and tumble group, and we'll mix it up and we do some bruising, all right? And I bruise with the best of them. But we've agreed in this instance that we have some ways that we will conduct our business. Led number one by discipline, that is saying what we're going to do and doing it, and having self-discipline in the way we treat each other. Respectful listening, assume a good place, move the agenda, be productive. Not simply here to quiz, satisfy curiosity, investigate reporting, all that. You know, we set those types of interviews up or develop fact sheets. Right here, we're here to problem solve. Brevity. Be ambassadors. If you're part of the group, if you're part of band, then hey, we got to talk the band up, all right? I mean, you're in and you're out. You're in and you're out. Own your own opinion, speak for yourself, no ambushes, period. And that's also has to do with visitors that come into the room. Because if we don't treat them with respect, they will disregard us, and that will be our effectiveness. If we zero in the people that come in front of us, we will fail them. Treat it as a business meeting, promote unity, having the onboard, absences, and we're going to get the team building in the parking lot. So, we treat each other with respect, and we handle the business, all right? So now that we said that, okay. One more thing. You might not be able to read this, so I'm going to trace it. This is very important because I used to, anybody know what the NRP is? Raise your hand if you know what the NRP is. Okay. I was a Bryan neighborhood president, worked with CNA, Hawthorne, People's Club, William. Those spent a lot of time in the weeds for 300 years getting railroad documents, all right? It was a nightmare in some cases. Because a lot of folks are what we call moon. Anybody know what moon is?
Master of the obvious.
Master of the obvious, all right? Here's what I know. That we're here, this team is about the strategic level, and I'm going to force us to stay at that level. Big boy, big girl with a big ball and big block. The committees are about the operational level, how things get done, figure it out, duplicate it out, and debate it out. And then there's the technical level, which is where a lot of you like the best, like run straight to the weeds. Alright? And that just takes up a lot of airspace. We have technical professionals who you give them the opportunity, know it, and they will give you the 4 rooms to put it out. Right? So today we're going to elevate the discussion to the strategic level because there's enough of a picture now to help us go forward. We're going to accomplish a couple things today. One, we will understand the submission that's going forward. 2, we're going to organize the communities committee in 3 different areas so that they can function. 3, we have to make a decision. We have to talk about how we go forward and must do that's the most critical task. And so we're going to get to that. But here's a big picture notion. One thing that struck me was that North-Minneapolis is the blackest place in the state of Minnesota. All right? I mean, you see more black people in North-Minneapolis than you can anywhere else. Anybody debate that? Is that a fact? So that's the black community. All right? And the next thing that struck me is that if they say 80% of the housing was rental, then that implies you got a lot of black renters there, but this is their community, they interact with the homeowners, and people grow up here and have families, and that's what they do. Is that right? Yes. Okay. A tornado comes through and disrupts and destroys their lives at that time. I keep asking myself 2 questions. Why are we coming here? You know, what's that all about? All right? What is that all about? For me, after 22 years of my life, I'm coming in and working every day. It's about trying to restore that community that people live in, and I watch children grow up there. And when I talk to you, that's what I get from you as well. So what are the elements of restoring the community? One, that they are under distress right now, and they need help to try to get back to normality. Doing the decent thing and reaching out to them and providing help. Is that right? Yes. Is that right? Yes. That's what the continuity of care piece is all about that we established here. But that's the short term, 12-month, 13-month period. That's a bigger game. If it was 80% rental, then at the end of the day when the community is restored, will there still be room for those people or people like them? Is that right? That's the core question, is it not? Let's put that one on the table as the end game. Let's call that the end game so we don't get caught up in Mickey Mouse in the woods distraction damage, all right? So there are only two elements to it. The first is, where are the people? We don't know, and that's the problem. Let me tell you why it's a big problem for a nonprofit. Let's begin with, you see a little tic-tac-toe thing? You might not be able to see it. That's tic-tac-toe. Now, tornado came through like that. So if all these people got displaced right around the perimeter of the tornado, they're still in this community. That's one thing. Feel me? I mean, they're just on somebody's couch or wherever, they found shelter right in this community. That's one thing. But if they got dispersed and went to Anoka, Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, that might have it backwards, Bloomington, Minnetonka, St. Paul, or Washington County, what can we do for them? Very little. Say it. It's your reality. It's our reality. If they're in Washington County, they're off the map. As far as people in this room are concerned, for the most part, that's a fact. So we don't have the numbers, and we got to make that a priority. And make it I said it to the mayor last night. We got to make that a priority for everybody. Other than that, it's just lip service. And the numbers we've seen are really small. They don't approach what Rex said last week, do they? I mean, come on, do they? That's a reality check. So, the second element of this thing, since we're all concerned about them being able to come back to the community or somebody comes back like them, is an affordable housing forecast. And what that says is, by now, people have begun to pull permits. If I'm a homeowner, I had State Farm, I had Allstate, Justice been out, I'm back in the game, right? If I'm a rental property owner, you can track my behavior. Because if I'm going to do something major to the property, what do I have to do? Do what? Get a permit. So we can literally ask the city to show us the pattern and the build-up of rental permits. Get it. 4 o'clock in the morning, I take this now. How many rental units are in the box starting with 274? Sue, is that right? As Sue said, start with the 274. Major properties that have major damage. Number of permits pool and the rate per week. Because what you would expect is high. Everybody got it started getting in the game, right? Boom, State Farm, Allstate start paying off. And then that would decrease over time and finally hit a plateau. Okay? So the city can tell us how many permits per week, gathering it daily. Also sending folks around checking out what's going on. And tell you the rate at which affordable housing, and to the extent that it's returning to the community. Everybody got that? Okay, so we don't have to run around and oh my God, they're going to do, what do you call it? Yes. Right. Or if that's what's going on, we'll see it very quickly from a factual basis. So get to the facts. Hold on to the end. Hang on. Is the big deal. Now, the next element is figuring out where the people are. But let's go through it anyway. Here we are. We have institutional resources that get paid to know where people are. So I live in the box, I get dispersed, I mean the clothes are way out, I have a child. I pull them out of school, right? I got to put them back to school somewhere, don't I? And what do I have to request when I put them in school? Records! And that pops up an address. Okay? So the school district has a major responsibility to integrate into determining where the children went. If you get the calf, you know where the cow is how it used to go, all right? All right, I'm a country boy. So that's one element that we can pull that answers the question. Did they report from Washington County? Did they report from Northwood? Are they in Osseo? Are they in Shakopee? Where do those kids go, at least in the short run, or when they intend to go in the fall? The next one, the largest landlord in the city, came in and told us that, they put everybody, gave them vouchers, is that right, Section 8? Raised them up on the waiting list, is that right? How big is the waiting list? How many? 10,000 people. So the fact that you got a Section 8 certificate, or you got put to the top of the list, didn't give you permanent housing overnight, did it? But you got to have an address, don't you? Even temporarily. So MPHA knows where a group of people are. And without naming names, they can tell us how they're dispersed, and we can get a picture for that to determine what it is that we can do for them and how we're going to pay them. Finally, any organizations in this room run an MPIP program? Anybody in this room run an MPIP program? They're not even in the game. That's all. EAC and some others have contracts with the county. They have contracts with the county to manage MPIP recipients. You don't know what MPIP is? Anybody? You know how often you have to report to the MPIP worker? How? Monthly? In a job search deal where you got to get work, the benefits, where's everything going, you got to report it to somebody. And they got that place down there, Century Plaza, where they got workers, and they also have contracted vendors in the community that would know where these people are. And I'm not even getting into child protection and probation. So I said to Mayor Ryback that is this type of coordination from the institutions that get it that needs to be done, and he stated that what they needed to do was get their emergency operations center together so they can pull this information together. All right? Without it, everything is sheer speculation. For real. All right? Now, the big question that we as a group have to answer is this. How is it that we work alongside and work with this to mobilize community access and locate and inform people? All right? We can really get a handle on the situation. That is a big job that we're going to have to figure out in some type of communications campaign. And we're going to have to do it fairly quickly. And it's going to have to be multi-tiered and it's going to long. And it's got to work in conjunction with this. All right? If we get this right, and we understand this, because what everybody's going to come down on at the end is what's left in the box undeveloped after the landlords do their bid. And what was barren before the tornado, and what was left barren after the tornado, and then that's where the food fight's going to begin. All right? Will it be whatever character that it was previously in terms of affordability, because of the huge disparities in economics here that black folks can afford to live there, or will they continue, will that not come back like that? At the end of the day, whenever this is done, that question will be answered. Everything else in the middle, everything else in the middle, in terms of bringing the community back, is really just about how do you get to the final answer. And there's only one final answer. It will be affordable and still have the largest concentration of black folks in the state of Minnesota, or it might not be, or it might be like Heritage Park. But that's a long way from right now because we don't even have the basic facts about where the people are, and we have not begun to track the behaviors of the landlords. Period. Right? So I wanted to get that out to you because once we get the continuity of care people rolling and they get their infrastructure built, they're just going to be operational and coming in from where I sit and watching the game unfold. This task is how will we judge and how will we manage this. Because you're social service professionals. It's expected that you know how to do emergency housing, transportation, whatever it is that we do. The bigger game, though, is one that is far more difficult to gauge because we never operated in this capacity yet. And most time what you come to the table is what you know. So that's what you want to talk about. All right? But I'm telling you now, discipline will be around figuring out the behavior of the landlords, determining what's left, and figuring out where the people are. And if they're beyond our reach, then what? Alright? So, first point, Sue.
Again, Sue Watley, Ealing Transitional Housing. And I agree generally with the direction that you're looking at. Just a couple points. One, that as we're working with landlords that are rehabbing their units, we're making sure that they're going to rent back to the people that were living there before. And I think that's something that we want to be asking landlords as they're pulling those permits, that people that were living there are going to have first option back. On children that are moving out of the school district, McKinney-Vento Act, which is federal law, requires that the children be able to be transported back to their original school. So it's going to be critical to be in contact with the Minneapolis liaisons in regards to seeing where those kids may be living, but still coming back to their school of origin. And then the last point on it, when you got to the point of what's left undeveloped, as I talked about last Wednesday, I believe, is that I think the city really needs to look at, if permits are not being pulled relatively quickly, why not either look at condemnation and eminent domain, take back that property, let's get it rehabbed and make it affordable rental housing again. So, I think that there's an additional option that I would encourage instead of just wait and see what the landlord's going to do.
Okay, all right. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
To the point of the people, over 5,000, that's just a number I think is roughly higher of the people, not how do we locate them in your conversation earlier, how we locate them, and that's I'm saying it's the communication part is going to be key in what we do. So, and I see spoke to President Tracy and Al McFarland and Cam O'Jay here, and I'm glad that I know some of them will say FAI and stuff like that. But I think communication is the key in this about those people that might be out in Anoka and other parts of the state. So to get them back, and I like what we're talking about, bringing them back.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Inquiry with respect to the list. There are 25 structures on the list, and including one apartment, obviously. How many of these structures are livable?
If I could just respond. If you are looking at the handout that I gave you, these are the folks that came into the Drake that we screened and then have assigned to rapid rehousing workers with Elam and with St. Stephen's. So those are the structures that you wanted to be able to start looking at what units people were coming out of that were coming into shelter. And we're doing the same thing, and we'll have a list either Friday or next week, or Monday, of the folks that are at North Commons or wherever that ends up being as far as the sheltering for folks there. So what we're just trying to do from Elam is to begin to provide some data to this group in regards to where people came from. So how to read this is, these are the addresses people came from, the composition, the race, the agency that now has been assigned to work with them, and the specific staff person that's working with them. So we're making sure that people are moving ahead in the rehousing process, but we can talk more about that later.
Mr. King, my continuing inquiry was, do we have any idea of how many of these structures can be made livable once again, and are we in any way involved in rehabbing the structures?
Okay, the question was, do we know how many can be made livable?
And are we involved in rehabbing these structures?
The short answer is no, because we're still, you're still trying to really figure out a systematic way to work with the city. Right now, it's kind of catch as you can, kind of go. All right, so the first thing is the core group is going to have to sit down with the mayor and his people and take any concerns like that, so that we can figure out how we do the deal. The second element is to the extent that landlords have chosen contractors who've begun to work, then based on the insurance deal, and that's their choice about who they employ. Some folks might have gotten jobs from the community, but they might have brought in full crews. I think that question is going to be very appropriate on two different elements as we proceed. First, with the FEMA dollars being set for infrastructure, that applies two courses of action for the city. One to perform it internally with Public Works, and two to contract it out. That will be the first opportunity for not only scrutiny, but participation in that, because there will be workforce goals set, and it might be useful to understand what the city's current goals are, is there room for them to be higher, and what skill sets will be required for the building. In the second instance, which gets to Sue's point, once we get to the end game, the public dollars start getting pumped in to make things happen, there'll be another opportunity, because again, it will be guided by the principles of this community versus individual property owners who pretty much hire who they want to, and other than marketing, you cannot influence that from a regulatory or legal standpoint. So it's a good question, and it's going to be one of the ones that we pick up at the end, and we keep in front of us, because the infrastructure game is about to begin yesterday. It's going to happen right now. Anybody else? Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
King, could I just, so this will complete my inquiry. Thank you, sir. You mentioned insurance. Are we doing anything, and are we in a position to